If you're building a SaaS business, if you are a SaaS founder, go-to-market is likely top of mind. In this episode, I'm going to interview one of the smartest people I know when it comes to SaaS go-to-market. And in this episode, we're going to walk you through key principles that he's learned in his own journey in building and scaling iconic SaaS brands and now building one of his own. I know this is a little bit of a different episode. It's Thursday when I'm publishing this. Normally, we bring you an episode every single Sunday on actionable strategies on how to grow your SaaS business. I'm kicking off a 10-part series. It's going to go on for the next 10 weeks where we're going to be launching a second episode every single week. And instead of me just bringing you 3 principles on how to grow your SaaS business, I'm going to bring on someone that I'm personally working with or have worked with that is an exceptional founder, and they're going to give you their 3 principles. Don't worry, I'm going to tee up each of the principles, but the principles are going to come from them, from the trenches, and I know you're going to get a ton of value from it. In today's SaaS and Scotch episode, I'm going to be interviewing Daniel Barber. Daniel Barber is a near and dear friend of mine. We've worked together for over a decade now. In his career, he started off as a go-to-market leader. We've worked together at ToutApp. That's where I met him. Before that, he was at Responsys, which got acquired by Oracle. ToutApp got acquired by Marketo. He was one of our go-to-market leaders over there. He then went on to work with DocuSign. He was a go-to-market leader over there, and they IPO'd. He was an advisor to Outreach, which is now a unicorn. He was also an advisor to Chorus, which actually got acquired by ZoomInfo. And recently, he started his own company over the past few years called DataGrail, which is one of the leaders in privacy management. And it's doing so well, they just announced their $45 million Series C round. So in this episode, I get Daniel on a call, and we're gonna walk you through his 4 principles that he's learned in going from a go-to-market leader for amazing SaaS companies to becoming a founder, to becoming a CEO, and actually navigating that whole process. I know you're gonna get a ton of value from this. I'm super excited for it. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS business faster with an unstoppable strategy. If you are new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies on how to grow your SaaS business faster. And on top of that, for the next 10 weeks, we'll be dropping a second episode every single Thursday called SaaS and Scotch, where I bring on a SaaS founder and we talk about key principles that has helped them in their journey beyond just my journey. But either way, it's from actual founders like us who have built and scaled successful SaaS companies so that you can learn from these principles and apply them in growing incredible SaaS businesses. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and that bell icon that way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode with the TK energy. Now, if you're already part of this community, if you're part of my go-to-market coaching programs, my people, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. So there we were. This was about 2012. We were selling ToutApp. I was selling ToutApp, and we had a very tiny team. And the phone rang. Literally, we had phones back then. It was like a Ring Central thing, and the phone rang. And on the other end of the line was Daniel Barber and his boss at the time at Responsys, Andrew Riesenfeld. Fun story with Andrew Riesenfeld. He actually introduced us to our Series A investor, amazing person as well. But they were on the call and they were like, hey, we want to buy ToutApp. They wanted to purchase ToutApp seats. And that was going to be one of our first enterprise deals because at that time we were just a self-service business. I get on the call and they're like, look, we want to do this. We want to buy for a whole team. And I'm like freaking out. This is amazing. And they're like, there's one condition. I'm like, what's the condition? They're like, you can't sell it to ExactTarget. ExactTarget was their main competitor and they wanted to use ToutApp as a competitive advantage. They didn't want their competitors to have it. That's how powerful the tool was. Being the founder, on one hand, I really wanted this enterprise deal and this enterprise logo. On the other hand, I'm like, I can't do exclusivity this early. Like the deal is not big enough. I can't do it. I was like, guys, I'm sorry. I just can't do it. And we hung up. They were like, cool, we're not going to do it. I'm like, I totally get it. I'm sorry. And I was like, that's a weird call. And I actually logged into our admin interface and I looked up like, do we even have ExactTarget as a customer? And it turns out ExactTarget had already started trialing the product without us knowing it. This was true product led at the time, 2012. The phone rings again and I pick up the phone and I get on the phone and I'm like, and it's Daniel and Andrew again. And they're like, okay, look, we'll buy it, but don't let ExactTarget have it for at least 3 months. Just commit to that. We don't want it forever. Just give us 3 months head start. And this is one of those things where you literally can't make it up. And I couldn't have negotiated any better, just knowing like what I knew then as baby TK. I was like, listen, guys, even if I wanted to do 3 months, I couldn't do it because Exact Target, I just looked it up in our systems, is already trialing ToutApp. And it looks like they already have a few seats on it and they're putting it through its paces. So if you really want to use ToutApp, you should buy right now. And almost immediately they were like, okay, we'll do it. And they became one of our first enterprise customers. Fast forward a few months later, Responses got acquired by Oracle. And that's when Andrew Riesenfeld had introduced us to our Series A investor, Greg Gretsch, over at Jackson Square Ventures, also amazing investor. And as that was coming together, I'm like, oh, I need to hire people to lead up key pieces. And one of the key pieces we wanted to head up was sales development. And Daniel was one of our best customers and he had become a friend. And I'm like, hey, Daniel, like, do you want to like join us? And so we went to dinner. And after dinners, we went to the Embarcadero in San Francisco. And I remember, I'll never forget this. Daniel and I were there and he had bought some cigars. So we were both lighting up the cigars. We were just talking and Daniel's like, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna join ToutApp. I'm gonna help you with go-to-market. And then after that, I'm gonna learn everything that I can from there. And then I'm gonna go start my own SaaS company and then I'm gonna grow it. And that was the beginnings of an incredible friendship. Over the decade, Daniel did everything he said he was going to do. He helped ToutApp grow. He was part of the story where we grew 300% to get to our Series B. He helped other companies grow. And now he's at DataGrail, where DataGrail is growing immensely in the privacy space. They're becoming one of the top brands that helps you actually manage and be compliant to GDPR and all different privacy regulations. And they just recently announced their $45 million Series C. So Daniel is an incredible person, an incredible friend, and he has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to building SaaS companies. And so I got him on a call and I wanted to do this in-depth SaaS and Scotch episode where we go through the key principles that he's learned in his incredible journey from being a go-to-market leader to a SaaS founder that is now scaling a Series C company. I know you're gonna get a ton of value from this. So if you're excited to meet Daniel and get into principle number 1, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm and let's go right into it.
So Daniel is CEO and co-founder of DataGrail. They are the only purpose-built privacy management platform. And we'll talk about DataGrail today. Daniel also led revenue teams at DocuSign, which IPO'd, Date9, which got acquired by ZoomInfo, ToutApp, where we met, which got acquired by Marketo, Responses, which got acquired by Oracle, Chorus, and he's an advisor at Chorus Outreach, Chorus and Outreach, which are both unicorns, if not decacorns by now. What a stellar resume. You're kind of a legit guy.
Sometimes I don't know how it all worked out, but apparently.
This is one of the best blessings in life. Yeah, it's one of the best blessings in life because like you meet people and their story I shared with our audience, and I'll share it with you because I think I texted it to you. I was like, there we were after dinner and you and I were having a cigar, looking at the bay, and you were at Responses and you were like, all right, I'm going to help you with ToutApp and then I'm going to start my own company. I'm like, and I heard the part and I'm like, yeah, no, that sounds great. Let's go do it. And you did everything you said you were going to do, like sitting here right now. So congratulations to you. And thank you for being here today, Daniel.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I mean, your friendship means the world to me, as you already know. But yeah, we've had tons of fun along the way and you've been an amazing mentor to me, TK. And I can't thank you enough for like how I've been able to get to here, because a lot of that is learning from you. So thank you.
That's very kind of you to say, but this is the Daniel show and it's all about you.
Okay, so as Daniel and I got in talking, one of the things I really wanted to ask him was with DataGrail, it almost from the outside in, it would seem like they got product market fit in one shot. And for founders like us, we've always experimented and sometimes it takes a lot longer to get product market fit. So I wanted to ask him like, hey, how did you manage the product market fit process? And that's how we got into Daniel's principle number 1. Principle number 1 was literally, you've got to start with macro trends and the problem that you are actually solving for a specific market. Here's how Daniel really got into DataGrail and proving out and identifying the problem and proving out the product market fit.
Most of our audience are founders. Some of them are seed-backed, some of them are bootstrapped, some of them are gotten to Series A. And you felt this and I felt this, where even when you raise $3 to $5 million, you're sitting in a room alone trying to figure out, like, all right, how do we make this thing?
Yeah, no one gives you a playbook. There's no playbook. Yeah.
And for what's unique about you, and the reason I say that is all the founders here, top of mind for them is go-to-market. And what's really unique about you is you started as a go-to-market leader, one of the most like you were ahead of the curve. and now you're a founder, a very successful one. And so why don't we start off with, how'd you know, like, what was your path from being go-to-market to founder? Did you always know you were going to start a company? Did you plot that out? Like, did you purposefully choose go-to-market first? Let's talk through that first. Like, tell us about how you got started in this.
Yeah. So I did my MBA in Japan. So as folks have probably figured out, I'm Australian, but I did my MBA in Japan and worked for a Japanese company. And I knew that would shape my experience, just like, in the way that I would approach, management, also just like interacting with other humans. And it definitely did. It was very intentional. I wanted to work for a Japanese company following that. And that was a great experience as well. I think coming to the Bay Area, I knew I wanted to get into tech. I didn't really know where to start, but I knew there was likely a path towards starting a business, but that started to become clear that was going to be exciting. And I'd say probably 2012, 2013. So about a decade ago.
Yeah, that's when we met. Yeah.
Yep. And
2012.
Yep. And, I think like part of it was, trying to figure out how to solve problems, right? I think like many folks are naturally drawn to, hey, this is a cool solution, or imagine if I built this, people would want it. I think like looking at it through a different lens of like, what's the problem you're trying to solve, and really deeply understanding that. And I think that's where, we first met. I was in the sales org at a company called Responsus, and, we were selling email technology, right? So, a platform that would send emails for consumer brands, large consumer brands, and would track those emails. And, the sales process would be sharing with potential buyers of Responsus that if they use Responsus, they could send better emails and personalize those and track the click behavior and the open rates and things that today are very obvious for everyone. But as I tasked myself with doing sales, it was really broken. People would use Outlook or Gmail and send one-to-one emails and just like basically using some of the material the same in emails and copying and pasting and then using links. And then, I was trying to figure out who was tracking the content I was using Bitly, which, flashback, right? And this was just like a clear problem. And so when I met you, I'm like, this just makes so much sense. Like, why wouldn't there be something for salespeople to do the same thing of like what we're doing for marketers? And I think like through that lens, right, I gradually like watched other founders like approach problem solving of like, what's the problem they're trying to solve? And I think that's the thing that ultimately led to, okay, if you can find a problem that you have a discrete understanding or an advantage of information over others, that gives you a head start, right? And then second, if it's a macro trend, that's really compelling. And then, third, it's like, how do you think about solving the problem? Can you solve it in a unique way that no one else can? And so, my history sort of then led to, joining many other different applications that would perform different things, right? So anything from DocuSign to ToutApp. And what I saw with that is this proliferation of SaaS, and that doesn't slow down. And so by the time I got to, the end of 2017, realizing I wanted to start a company, needing to meet co-founders, because I think that's an important part of it for many of us, I realized that this problem around privacy was one that was going to be here for this decade and beyond, right? So it's a macro trend. It's going to affect everything. And every software company, including the founders listening to this series, are just making it even harder because no one built software with privacy in mind or built their company with privacy in mind a decade ago or even last week. And so that's a big problem. Now solving that requires a solution that is integrated. And so that's where we begun. And that's sort of how I arrived at, where we are today.
Now, that's exactly how he went through the process of embracing the founder journey and really identifying, okay, he always knew he wanted to start a company, but how he would actually approach choosing the problem and solving for it. But just because he had the problem doesn't mean he knew it was going to be the right problem. As he said, he didn't exactly know how big it would be. So his principle number 2 was to actually use a test instrument, as he called it. He used a very specific test instrument to guide in the process of getting to proper product market fit. Let's see how he talks about that principle.
Now, I'll tell you from the outside, in, it looks like you got to product market fit in one shot with DataGrail. Is that fair to say? Was it like that on the inside?
There's a couple things there. So that's a good question. I think the part that I probably missed in that journey, and it's worth sharing, was actually your advice. Moving into consulting, so creating you as the product, right? Like Daniel Barber Inc. was one of the best decisions that I ever made. Working for someone else's company is the thing. When you can sell yourself as services, right? You are the product. So if you can do that, that's the last step, right? You sell your own hours for money for some form of deliverable. And I did that for about a year before I transitioned into trying to put software together. And that made fundraising infinitely easier. It also made like any funding sort of conversations around product infinitely easier because now I had a physical product, not just myself. To answer your question on product market fit, yes, we definitely did. I'd say that it wasn't clear to me at that stage how big this opportunity was, right? We had people, and I would never release their names in the show, but one day, if the company is large enough, I will happily share the names.
When
at some point, yes. Yeah, exactly what it is. Some folks would tell me, oh, that's like Y2K, right? Privacy, GDPR, that's like Y2K. I remember their names. They're etched into my head. But no, it's not Y2K. It's going to be here for a while. You'll see it on every billboard around, which Apple has kindly done, right? Privacy, it's iPhone. Privacy is now a macro point hitting every country and every human. So no, it's not Y2K. But, I think I didn't really know how big it was going to get. So if I was, I knew it was going to be big. I knew we were taking a slice of it. I could see that we had a competitive advantage and a discrete advantage. How much we could use that, I wasn't fully aware of at the time.
Yeah, I think I totally forgot about that piece. You're right. You did go into companies to solve their go-to-market problems, almost like a hitman for a little bit.
Yep.
Did that give you the domain knowledge, you think, on like, oh my God, this is a problem to solve? Like, because I know you were doing a lot of orchestration pieces in these companies at that time.
It did. It did. I would say there were things that I observed in some of the companies where I was like, wow, that's interesting. The number of software tools and just pure systems that people are buying is not slowing down, knowing what we both know, which is every application contains personal information. I mean, that's the whole kind of point, right?
Yeah.
So knowing that, and that's not slowing down. And then at the same time, consumers have this sort of expectation that they can get their information, but the business has no idea what it has. That's going to be a problem. And so it sort of just like came to light. But the consulting was like probably the biggest piece of value was just like selling myself.
Right.
Because the working on a salary for someone is great. And you learn an infinite amount from that experience as well. But when there's no one else and you have to create the, LLC documents and you have to create the, order form and you have to have terms and conditions so you don't get screwed and, these things, right, that we just take for granted, no one else is helping you with that. So when you do, Your Name Inc., that's a big step to accelerating your founder journey into a real tech business.
I think it's poetic that for a huge part of your career, it was about how do you sell, you were selling like send more emails. And now it's like that little unsubscribe link down below, you like own that with DataGrail. Like it's kind of poetic in a way.
It definitely is. And this is where that sort of second point I shared of like having a competitive advantage in the knowledge set that you have, right? Like thinking about, did I ever think I was going to start a privacy company? No, right? But it's a thing that I observed of different companies would use these applications, connect personal information, and I could see this was going to be a problem. So I had unique perspective in solving the issue. And I think that's what's also interesting looking at some of the other folks that are in our market, right? Some of them have a legal background. Some of them have a security background. Some of them have, an engineering background. I think what's interesting is many people assume that you have to go into the same discipline that you came from, right? So if I'm in go-to-market, I need to build go-to-market software. I don't think that's true at all. I actually think it can hurt you because you have your natural biases that influence the way that you think about the problem, right? You have to solve it this way because that's how you've done it, right? I had no idea about privacy 5 years ago, right? How this operated. But we have approached it through the lens of a technology problem. And ultimately that's helping us be successful because we're addressing a technology problem for our customer.
Yeah, I think those things line up. One of the things that's advice we give to our earlier stage founders is obviously talk to customers. And that sounds obvious. And you're like, yeah, I'm doing that. But like when you
really spend time with them.
Yeah, when you're really like, to you take your point, like when you're consulting with them and they let you in and you're in the basement in the boiler room, that's really talking to customers because you're like, oh my God, this is a real problem. When you are working inside of these organizations and running go-to-market, that gives you domain knowledge. Those are the kind of things that really makes for successful product market fit for sure.
Yeah. And I would, everything you just said, and I would add that, you know, we did a test instrument, right? So a survey, right? And we recorded conversations. I would trade open table gift cards for conversations with folks.
Right.
I have those recordings today.
Yeah.
So I had a test instrument where I had a fixed set of 12 questions and I asked the same set of 12 questions to people in my network that I knew that I could trust. And I recorded the conversations and transcribed the results and then looked at the results with my co-founders and we started to confirm like, yes, this is actually really a problem. And then that led us to, okay, if we were to solve this, would people pay for it? The answer was yes.
Yeah. This is exactly why I wanted to ask that question, because from the outside in, it looks like one-shot product market fit, but really the little things like you did the consulting, you worked in these companies, I didn't even know about the gift card, you asked the questions, like all these things are really, it's like, you can go guess at product market fit, or you can do all this work, which is actually-
You can just do programmatically, make sure 100% you are going to hit it, right? Like if you ask 30 people the same set of questions and everyone confirms the exact same thing is a problem for them and they will pay for it, go build that thing.
The thing that I found fascinating about Daniel's journey is with how much ease he really navigated each of the stages of DataGrail, from no revenues to $1 million, from $1 million to the next stage and then the next stage, and how he's navigating this stage. And so I asked him about that, like how did he think about this transition from being founder to CEO? How did he think about being a go-to-market leader who clearly knows how to sell and market, but being a founder and how that was different, how he embraced go-to-market? We dig into all of that. And his third principle where he really dug into it was to navigate the founder to CEO transition thoughtfully. And in this principle, he talks about how he thinks about the different phases of a SaaS company and how he approached being founder or being CEO appropriately.
We've got members in our community. Some are, a few $100,000 in ARR. We've got people anywhere from $1 million to $3 million. We've got upwards of 75 million. So you're founder, you've got product market fit. I want to talk next about this journey from founder to CEO. This is one of the other big themes. I remember, and one of the things we talked about in the strategy session for the planning for this was like, okay, don't get too inside baseball with Daniel, because I know you have a lot of memories and we have a lot of memories. You could probably have this entire thing on that. Yeah. But I remember we were like having this one dinner and you were working on hiring the VP of sales. And I remember we were talking like, do you want to be the VP of sales or do you want to be CEO? Like, So can you talk a little bit around, you're a go-to-market leader, then you were a founder, and then you start generating revenues, you get product market fit. So many of our CEOs struggle with how do you scale, when do you hire? So what was your journey like in going from founder to CEO? Especially now that you guys are Series B, going on to the next stage and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing I'm battling with right now, right? It's going through the next stage.
It doesn't end. That's right.
No, it does not. I think there's sort of this rule, and there's a couple of good resources that I could share afterwards. But there's kind of this rule of like the 1 to 10, then the 10 to 30, then the 30 to 100, right? And when you're in the 1 to 10, meaning you have less than 10 employees, you're doing everything. If you're a 1 to 10, founder and you're trying to outsource like customer interactions or outsource sales, do not do that. Do not. That is a terrible idea. You need to have the first 10 customers really close to you, because it's everything. You are founding a company. If you don't know what the problem is that your customer is trying to solve, there is no way you can make that repeatable, right? So you need to be like full-time founder hat on. Yeah, you happen to have a CEO title, like cool. You still probably take the trash out, right? Like I was 1 to 10, I was taking the trash out. On the weekends, I was, driving to the local furniture store to pick up literally the desk I'm on right now. Like this chair, I bought it on a Saturday, right? And if you're trying to outsource that to someone, shame on you, right? Like you're a founder, you've got to figure that out.
There's nothing to chiefly execute over.
No. You're a CEO by title, but really you just do stuff, lots of stuff. And talking to customers has got to be like 50% of it, because otherwise, like you don't get product market fit, right? You need feature feedback and like customer development. Like that's like priority number 1. Then there's this like 10 to 30 where you are sort of starting to emerge with a makeshift management team, right? There are people that are starting to take over as, leaders for certain things, right? So we had a director of customer success. What did that actually mean? She was the first CSM. We had, a person running operations. What does that actually mean? He did everything, right? A bunch of sort of like early management hires. And I'm sure you remember those too, TK. In fact, I was probably one of them, right?
Yeah.
And like, early sort of folks, right? Doing a lot more than their title suggests, but also filling a very specific function. And then there's the 30 to 100 stage, which is where we are. And I'm trying to exit out of it, where I am a part-time CEO. So I have a pretty established, management team. We've got a scary number now, like I think 24 managers in the company, which is dumbfounding. So 24 people that are responsible for other humans, right? Then we have an executive team that is, 5, 6, 7 folks, right? But there are still certain areas where I'm sort of still running a function, right? And so I'm sort of part-time CEO, part-time manager of some random thing that doesn't have a human assigned to it yet. And so that's natural. I think about it almost like puberty. Like I'm not actually a full adult yet. I'm still going through the development phases of becoming one. And so now I'm reaching out to folks and trying to engage folks in my network. And I have my professional coach. So I get coaching, and my coach is guiding me through the process of like, how do I become the CEO of a 100-person company? Because 100 goes to 300, right? We're talking about 1s and 3s, right? That's sort of the metric there. And so the 100 to 300 is very different than what I've just come from. But right now I'm still currently the part-time CEO, and I'm trying to transition out of it. But the earlier stages are as described, right? There's, 1 to 10, 10 to 30, 30 to 100.
All right, we've got the 3 principles. Now we've got number 4 and number 5. But before I dig into that, let me just pause here for a second. Are you starting to see the power in this? One of the key patterns we talk about in this channel is the idea of founder-led sales and marketing, really embracing sales and marketing as a founder. And I knew that it would be super interesting for actual founders like you to see how a go-to-market leader embraces sales and marketing, even when he knows he needs to be the founder and the CEO. And so hopefully you're getting value from this. You're starting to see the power in some of these principles that Daniel is sharing, which I know is so spot on from my perspective, but hopefully you're seeing it too. Can I just get a yes in the comments below? And also smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really likes it when you do that. And with that said, if you're an early stage SaaS founder and you're looking to grow your SaaS business, be sure to also check out our 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide. I'll tell you more about it at the end of this video. I'll also link to it below. You don't have to go anywhere right now. Just make sure you smash that like button. Let's go to principle number 4 by Daniel. So principle number 4 that he talked about, and this is the reason I asked him this, is I truly believe Daniel is one of the top 1% people when it comes to recruiting. I saw him recruit amazing talent into ToutApp. I saw him do that consistently in all the other companies, including DataGrail, where he's worked. I've always been enamored by how he approaches recruiting, but I never fully understood it. So I took this opportunity for all of us to be able to ask Daniel and say, hey, how do you actually think about recruiting? Why are you so great at it? How are you one of the best at it? How do you recruit these incredible people to join your companies? And so Daniel's principle number 4 is don't treat recruiting as transactional. Think of it as putting coins into the relationship bank. Take a long-term view into it. Let's cut into that.
One of the things that I think is your unique superpower, and I truly believe you're in the top 3% of the world at this. I'll say the polite way to say it, and I'll say the brute force way. The polite way to say it is
okay.
You're in the top 3% in recruiting people. Like you really are. Like you did that at Tout, you did that in every company, you did that at DataGrail. The brute way to say it is you are the top 1% in getting talent that has no business joining an early stage risky company and getting them to do it and getting them to perform. And that's what you're like top 1% at. To you, recruiting, and I mean it, I've been the beneficiary of it. You're amazing at it. To you, what I've noted, and I've studied this and I've studied others, and this is one of the big things that founder and CEO does forever, right? That's one, don't run out of money.
That's it.
People, right? Yeah. That's it. And you treat recruiting as like a sport. It's a sport too. It's not just the thing you do. You are I want to be great at it. Can you tell us a little bit around how you look at recruiting and how you approach it? And how are you so good at it?
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I do love recruiting. I think if inspiring folks to join your journey doesn't sound like something you want to do, you should think carefully about that path, right? Because as CEO, you're going to recruit, to your point, for life. That is what you are signing up for. You cannot delegate that. Your executive team must come from your own recruiting. And I think even beyond that, right, supporting your executive team to make sure that they can actually get there too. That's it. And I think the thing that I think about when it comes to recruiting, it's always a long game, right? It's not transactional. Everything is a coin in the jar for later, right? Meaning when I was at Responsus, there were people that I mentally logged 10 years ago, and I was like, I'm going to stay in contact with that person. I suspect we will cross paths many times, and I suspect they will join the company if there's an opportunity. And as you think about your sets of people, it's you're just planning out the playbook, right, of who you're going to hire because you need to. And I think that that has helped enormously to get the first few hires, right, that we brought on. Some folks from ToutApp, right, that were phenomenal. Josh, for example, phenomenal. Yeah. I knew when we were at ToutApp together, I was like, if there's an opportunity to start a company, I'm bringing Josh. And I pinged him and I was like, hey, you should come join us. And he was with us for quite some time and built a large amount of the product. Yeah. And so I think that's one element. I think the other element is you have to be proactive on this thing, right? You're either going to get the person or someone else is, right? So if you're hoping people come to your website as an early stage founder, best of luck. No one knows you, right? Yeah. They don't even know us now.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen, right? Once in a blue moon, you get a person that comes to a website and you just that's the day you go and crack the champagne, right? Of wow, we've had an amazing person come to the website.
Now that you mention it, it's very true. I've seen you do this. You're right. You don't approach it as I need to hire a VP of sales. Who do I need to talk to? How do I recruit them? You're literally I will need to hire a VP of sales, whether it's now or 10 years from now or 5 years from now. And here's a great group of people. Yeah, that's so fascinating.
Yeah. And then that way, you've got your short list of 5 people for almost every role, right? So you've at least got most of the roles kind of figured out how you get those. And then the rest, that helps. The proactive piece though is no joke. Meeting with folks that you might hire in a year from now, that is a very good investment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even at the early stage, right? If you're just in that 0 to 10 or 1 to 10 phase, talking to folks that you might hire in 6 to 12 months from now, that is a coffee that is well worth the money.
I think that your advice from earlier and even this one connects really well. You cannot outsource certain things as a founder. You may have the job as CEO, you're still a founder. So you cannot outsource marketing or sales. You can't go to market. You got to own it.
Correct.
Whenever I meet a CEO with a fractional CMO and they're under 10K MRR, I'm like, I'll give you a hug, but like, good luck, dude.
That's not going to work. No,
it's not going to work. But also you can't outsource the recruiting, and you're literally owning like, hey, I'm going to talk to the customers. I'm going to talk to future hires. I'm going to keep putting coins in these, and then we'll figure out the patterns from there, which is no wonder like it's worked well for you.
And finally, there's this fifth one that I'm glad came up. I wasn't sure how it would fit in, but along with my friendship with Daniel, I also became good friends with Daniel's now wife, Lish. And so she's also an incredible person. And so one of the things I asked Daniel was like, hey, do you have anything from a founder journey perspective? Is there like a personal principle that you have that has helped you in your success in your career and with DataGrail and everything? Unprompted, he said, oh, hands down, have a great partner in crime. He talked about Lish. And so principle number 5, according to Daniel, is have a great partner in crime. Let's cut into how he talks about that.
One last piece of advice that you would give to founders turning CEOs, even pre-founders, we've got the whole gamut here. Like one thing that like just helps you keep going, like maybe even in your personal life, like what is that for you?
Well, it's cliche, but you're about to get married in October, right? Now it's just a party because we did our prenup last year. So TK is obviously coming. I'm so fortunate to have someone in my life that I can talk to and that I can share this journey with. And I think it's important, not to say you can't do it. I think you definitely can. And there's probably things that are powerful about having completely operational as a solo person in life and not having a partner. That can be done. But sure, man, is it nice, right? I was talking to my partner, Lish, at 2 a.m.
Yeah. Lish is amazing, by the way. Yeah. Shout out to Lish.
Yep. And like, I wouldn't imagine anyone else, right? Yeah. She's both a friend, but also a person that I can talk to about real details of the company. And it's lovely.
By the way, we filmed this earlier and then we sliced it up. I did go to his wedding and I went to Daniel's and Lish's wedding. It was an incredible wedding. It was so much fun. There was this picture and this picture and this picture. It was an incredible time. And I think one of the coolest things about this is, along with building SaaS companies, one of the best things in my life has been how you can build amazing relationships. And Daniel is one of them, of the people I've met in the ToutApp journey and thankfully have stayed in touch with and built our relationship around. There's so many. And so that's one of the coolest parts about this. But let's cut back into him as he finishes up his principle around this.
But having a partner is kind of nice. This is not dating advice, but it's just something that's been helpful for me.
I think that's so true. I agree with you. Like I've done it with a partner. My last company, I was married. My current company, I'm single. And my last company, I was a solo founder. This company, I have a co-founder. Having a co-founder,
so nice
is amazing, and I highly recommend finding the right person. Having the right partner in life where you're like building that empire together and you get it, like is also like that. I like that better than doing it single. So I agree with you. I think that is 100 times better. So if you can do that.
So now you know the key principles that Daniel has used, not just to be a tremendous go-to-market leader, but also to build an incredible company like DataGrail, to start it, to build it, to scale it to where he is now. To recap, principle number 1 was start with macro trends and key problems that you can solve in a market. Number 2, use a test instrument to actually think about product market fit and to validate your product market fit. Number 3, navigate the founder to CEO transition thoughtfully, depending on the stage you are in the business. Number 4, do not treat recruiting as transactional. Think of it as putting in coins into the relationship bank, as Daniel would put it, and you'll get incredible people to join your mission and what you're building. And number 5, have a great partner in crime and have someone that you can really ride along with for this incredible journey that's gonna be 10 years if you are successful. I'm so incredibly grateful to Daniel for doing this interview. I hope you got value from this episode. We're doing this SaaS and Scotch series where we drop these episodes every Thursday with actual founders that are in the trenches. And it's been an honor and a privilege to see Daniel and see what he's done, and to even have met him at a time at ToutApp when baby TK really needed to learn about go-to-market. He was an incredible person to have on the team. So hopefully you got value from these principles. If you did, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. If you are a SaaS founder and you're looking for ways to grow your SaaS business in a proper way, be sure to grab a completely free copy of our 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide. All you need to do is just go to getunstoppable.com/strategy. Getunstoppable.com/strategy. It's completely free. And it gives you the 5 core pillars to SaaS growth, along with key videos you should watch to understand it in a better way. If you have a fellow founder, a fellow team member that would get value from this video, please share it with them. It would just mean the world to us. My team and I put a lot of love into these videos, and Daniel was so kind to actually put his time out of his busy schedule to help do this video, to bring this video to this community. And also, we drop an episode every single Sunday, and as part of this 10-part series, every single Thursday as well, with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your SaaS business effectively. So if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. You'll get notified every single time I drop an episode. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you in the next episode.